Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, on behalf of the Collins Press, I'm delighted to see so many people have turned out here tonight for the launch of Rory Gallagher, the man behind the guitar, by Julian Vignoles. The only important housekeeping point, which is really a commercial that I want to make, is this could be your last chance to get a signed copy by the author. And a first edition, by the way. And I'm delighted to see some people are already aware of that because they're buying multiple copies. I want to thank everyone who helped in the compilation of the book and bringing this publishing project to a conclusion. One of the most pleasurable aspects of the publishing world is actually the final step, which is launching the book. And I want to thank everyone who helped Julian, and of course everybody here in Dubray who seem to never tired of hosting launches, and they're always very professional at it. This is the first in-depth biography of Rory. It charts his life from birth to death in what we hope you will find is an insightful and captivating read. Not alone is the text very interesting, but there are loads of illustrations, photographs, artifacts reproduced, which almost tell a story on their own. And it's great as well to see a spread of people here tonight from other areas of music. In the acoustic CD which was released, there are some traditional Irish tunes, and I notice Paddy Glacken, for example, is here tonight. And I remember 30 years ago going to hear Paddy Glacken playing in the Four Seasons in Capel Street on a Sunday night. So it's funny how the wheel of life goes round the Rohamuric tale until it casa. To launch the book, we're delighted to have Dave Fanning, who obviously needs no introduction, but I'd say he's so long going now in RTE that Larry Gogan's record is probably in danger. As well as that, anyone who thinks he mightn't be familiar with the story of Rory should check out the index to the book. He has numerous entries there, so I think he's well qualified to launch the book. So he doesn't know what he's going to say, and I'll hand you over now to Dave.
Thank you very much, folks. I'll try and be brief, but I'm sure I won't be, so I'll just keep going very fast as I usually do anyway. Julian, first of all, congratulations. I always thought I knew everything about Rory Gallagher. There's so much in here with exhaustive research. I presume it took you more than a week. That I had no idea of a lot of it, except there's other things too that I've always felt about Rory Gallagher, and in so many ways it's been sort of put in the book that I was right, and I'm going to be very sort of bad about this here. I think Rory Gallagher led a very sad life. I think Rory Gallagher was a very sad man, and I think Rory Gallagher had a very sort of lonely death. And I think it's not a great man necessarily to kind of want to emulate in so many ways, but on another side of it, he was the nicest man I've ever met in my entire life. I didn't like particularly talking to Rory because I always felt it was an intrusion. I always felt there was eggshells kind of being walked on. If it was live on the radio, which it was many times, when I said, pick up the guitar there and play something, he was so thrilled. It wasn't that he didn't want an interrogation or even a conversation or anything like that. It's just that he was so painfully shy. But when he was like doing anything else, I spent a full day with him once in the early 90s actually. And this is the bit where I feel guilty. Because I didn't know, and this book tells me, that the last 5 years of his life, just what a terrible state, let's be blunt about it, that he was in. He was great in 1991. I was doing a thing for Channel 4. We walked through Camden Lock. We had those mics on where it didn't look like there was somebody with a microphone over our heads. Cameras over on the far side. So he was quite happy to walk and talk. It was when he was suddenly like rabbit in the headlights stuff. He just had no opinions about anything, didn't want to say anything. And it was only because he was such a shy bloke. When you got to know him more, he'd go on about Dashiell Hammett and American crime writers and all that kind of thing. But other than that, he was painfully shy and such a bloody nice guy. Donald himself is mentioned in the book loads of times. That's the brother of the person who knew him better than anybody else. And he says he never really knew him at all, never had a proper one-to-one with him at all. And Rory's life was playing on stage, which is all he ever wanted to do. Even the studio, I'll give you a perfect example. In '69, Under the Blankets with the Transistor, Kid Jensen, Luxembourg, or maybe it was 70, I don't know. Whenever that Isle of Wight festival was, with it was 70, 69, 70. What am I being? Okay, but it was yeah, whatever it was. And like that's the same. If that was that 70? 70, yeah. 70. Okay. Well, only a year beforehand, Woodstock had happened. So the point is, like, festivals weren't a known thing, and this Isle of Wight thing was huge. And your man comes on, Kid Jensen, at 2 o'clock in the morning and says, I've seen The Who and I've seen Jimi Hendrix, but I just saw a band called Taste. I've seen the greatest thing I've ever seen in my life. And that was around the time of the first album. Second album just came out then, which was On the Boards. And by that stage, I was a total sort of fan or whatever. Then he went solo, and the first solo album is still the greatest album he's ever made, I'm convinced. And then all throughout the 70s, everything else. I feel guilty about the fact that the 3 albums, Jinx and all that, in the 80s into 1990, I didn't know as well. I probably just left it behind a little bit, but I was always a major, major fan of Rory Gallagher. His concerts in the Adelphi, his concerts in the stadium. Did he play a concert in towards the very end in the Olympia? That's the one now. That was a very sad concert because I didn't realise just how bloated and huge he was. I didn't realise how unhappy he might have been, and then the second number he tripped over the monitor and fell. It was actually not great. And then the last time I saw him was the last thing he did, 100 yards from here. Yeah, just down the road in College Green. And that was only weird because of the fact that people were coming home from work going, what's all that noise? Like, you need to be at a gig with everybody in the same headspace. And it was just kind of odd. But I mean, he still played very well. And there's loads of stuff in the book about the day before that, musicians reading in Bloom's Hotel, and that I didn't meet him at all then. But like, it's brilliant stuff in terms of, sure that the people, right, okay, fair enough, right, very good. Yeah, that would be him. That's right.
That would be us.
But there's so much, it's just when I think of that thing in 69, 70, and just how important Van Morrison was at the same time, and how important Rory was with everything that he was doing, it was just the biggest thing to see him up on stage there doing his thing. And you've got it that he was quite heavy. Like, I mean, he would say to the musicians, this is what you're doing. He was nearly Van-like to Jerry McAvoy. Like, shut up and play this, or we're only doing this, play louder. It was always play louder until they told him to feck off, which they did a few times. I didn't know any of that stuff was going on. So there's loads of that kind of stuff in the book. Now, I did write down 1 or 2 points to finish with, I forgot about. Yeah, the superstitious stuff that you have in the book. I didn't know about it. He's really superstitious. Like, he got that from his mother, I get the impression, did he? He had very sensitive hearing in the last 5 years. That would explain 1 or 2 things that happened with him when I was there, all right, yeah. And his lyrics, this is another thing too, which I didn't really necessarily get until I read the book. I never thought, like, if you take Blueprint, or no, take the way he recorded Juice, second album, what do you call it? Crest of a Wave and I'm Not Awake Yet, stuff like that. It really did feel like one take, and I was thinking, imagine if that was properly produced or something. And yet, no, it's great. It sounds like a demo, which is the way it should sound. It would frighten the life out of radio programmers today. Every single bloody one of them, which is a race to the bottom to pay Rihanna these days. Also, the other thing about the lyrics is there's so much more that's in the lyrics that's more personal than I ever realised. I was reading the book that told me that. I never thought, like, as I say, what did I say? Blueprint, Walking Hot Coals, the first track, Dawn of the Everglades. I don't think of it being anything about Rory, but actually, when you even like A Million Miles Away or something, yeah, it's all Rory in so many ways, you know. There's another thing too. Brian Wilson is one way I look at it here. I'm sorry for being so heavy about Rory at the beginning, but Brian Wilson wrote an autobiographical song called for the Beach Boys. I just wasn't made for these times. That's Rory Gallagher to me. He just wasn't. He just wasn't really in there at all. Donald's stuff just about talking to him is fascinating in the book, just in some of the things that you picked up from that. But the way you put it all together and the exhaustive research, as I say, is just amazing. There's no question about it. It's just really, really very good indeed. And also, I was asked 10 years into 2FM, which would be, what, 1990 or thereabouts, what's the best thing about the first 10 years of 2FM? And I have it at home in a magazine saying, Christmas cards from Rory Gallagher. I mean, I got Christmas cards from Rory Gallagher. Who else can say that? Joe Duffy, can you say that? Oh, damn right you can't, no? The one thing about him is the way he played. He played so well, he was just so brilliant on the guitar and so great on stage. That, like, it's just impossible to describe what it did to me in the 70s. And I'm going to be really blunt, that was the 70s. By 80-something, I'm sorry, I was kind of gone somewhere else. But I always loved Rory Gallagher. I always loved what he did, and I always loved just everything he did. And it comes through in the book with so much more stuff than I have ever realised before, and I just love it all. Some of the stories, just very briefly, the Hendrix one, that's not true, is it? No, okay, the Hendrix story. But it's a great story, apart from, as it says in the Man Who Shot Liberty Valance, you know, the truth, forget the truth. trick the story, whatever. But anyway, the other one is the Rolling Stones. There's some truth in the Rolling Stones. Some truth. Right? It's great though, because you know, like you went up to play with the Stones or something in Sweden or something like that, and Keith Reed says, "Right, great, we want you." Said, "Want you? I've got a band." Oh, I just came up to have a jam or something along those lines. But the point is that he never wanted to join a rock and roll circus. He only would have joined a rock and roll band, and that's what he would have had to be. He would never have fitted in with the Stones, would he? God, think of what he would have done with the Stones. Anyway, the last thing I want to say about Rory is that I love him very much, and on June 14, 95, really sunny day, I'll never forget it. 10 years after Philo, all way too young and way too stupid. And I met Donald in 1993, was it? 1993 at the Fla in London. The first I realised what was going on, he said straight out, "Rory's not good." I said, "What do you mean not good?" "Well, it's only a matter of time." I couldn't believe it. I didn't know any of this kind of thing. That he lonely, there's a new word. He went up to his bedroom after every single gig. He never really hung around the bar with the other guys at all. And a very kind of a strange, weird life in some ways. And it's a shame. The fact that I didn't know a lot about that at the time is probably a good thing. Anyway, Julian, it's brilliant. There's so much in there. It's fantastic. If you haven't bought it, what are you? A fucking idiot. Thank you.
That's a hard one to follow, but I will do my best. Dave, he spotted a lot of the analysis in the book about the lyrics, and I came across this great quote where Schumann's, to go to another genre, Robert Schumann said about Chopin that his music was cannons hidden among flowers. And I think with Rory Gallagher, you've the opposite. You've flowers hidden among cannons. Take shadow play. How can I find my way in this shadow play? And shadow play, people think it's a big rocker, one of his big rockers, but there's a whole hidden meaning in it. And shadow play is an ancient form of Chinese theatre, where you have these cardboard cutout figures and you bounce light on them onto a screen. And Rory took this as a metaphor for the song. I don't know what part I play in this shadow play. And in Follow Me, another great rock anthem, won't you follow me where I'm bound, time's for borrowing now. So he knew his life was going to be short. The first thing I encountered in this project was, of course, something I really like, and that's folk memory. And I went up to Ballyshannon first, and then to Derry, and the Derry story was relatively untold. And I met a woman called Myra Doherty, and she remembers wheeling Rory around in a pram in Derry in the 1950 or 51, I'm sure it was. And she says, he was a lovely wee baby. I can still see his face. Now, whether she can actually see his face is irrelevant. It's the memory of it. And then other people in Derry remember this improvised guitar in the back of another Gallagher family, Dermot Gallagher, and this improvised guitar was kind of vaguely in his memory that Rory was trying to get this skiffle band going on the street. And then later, I was in Belfast as part of the work, and you jump into a taxi, and this man, Clifford Gallagher was his name. Rory Gallagher, of course I remember him. And he talked about Rory coming up to Belfast during the Troubles, and he said, lovely pity where he said it. He said, he talked to us about the Ulster Hall used to shake with people whacking the floor waiting for Rory to come on. And he said, we knew he was from the south, we knew he was a Catholic, but he was our God. That kind of I wrote this book because I'm a fan, but the paradox is I had to stop being a fan to write it. And you have to examine Rory's life, to move around in his life, as somebody said about biography, to ask the questions, to deal with the fables, to deal with the Hendrix. Hendrix never said that, or nobody has ever showed where Hendrix said it. And the other fable was that he could change his string on the guitar without interrupting the song. I'm not a guitar player, but I don't think that's possible. And the Stones, you see, the thing about the Stones, so many people revere the Stones, well, rightly, I suppose. But the idea that our guy could join the Stones was seen to be some kind of a badge. But he was never on. they jammed it in Rotterdam for a few days, and Bill Wyman poured total cold water on it. It's in 2 books. To talk again just about Rory and that's the sorrow and the difficulty in his life, and the question, of course, why did he die at 47? And we were all shocked this morning to hear about the death of Micheál Sullivan, who many of us knew. And I'd just like to mention something he said to me. He didn't say he said it in hot press, but I used it in the book. And he was actually Micheál said he was looking forward to the book. But he said that Rory's music, it was a part, he thought it was a necessary healing that he constantly pursued. To play music was a necessary healing. I think he got the measure of Rory actually in that comment. This book, I've been working on it for about 2 years. And there was one person, lots of people helped me, but there was one person in particular, Dave McHugh. Is he here? He's here. And Dave, I think, he wasn't just an advisor and a counsellor. He was like a coach in the whole process. And I remember it was this time last year. The book wasn't in great shape, and I spent about 8 days in Annaghmakerrig usefully, and it still wasn't in great shape after the 8 days. And I remember I met Dave for pints, as we do, and at one stage he has a great turn of phrase. And he put down his pint and he said he'd seen draft chapters. He said, "Julian, you've taken a hammer and chisel to the idealised statue of Rory Gallagher, and the pieces are all on the ground. And you have the chisel in your hand. Now you've got to build it up again." So that was, thank you for that. It was Christy Moore actually who I think summed up Gallagher very well. He said, "We miss his sound, his rock and roll, his folk and trad, his blues roots, chords, shapes, shirts, hands in pockets, collar turned up, his shy smile. I think he was a beautiful man who died lonely." I suppose that sums it up in a couple of sentences. I'm going to read a little bit from the book, a little bit of housekeeping first, and then we're going to prepare to close around the corner for a couple of pints. The other people I'd like to mention several people. Obviously the family, the immediate family, Carol, Owen and Rory, and Aoife Maher. And friends like Cathal Gowan, who made a very strategic, structural suggestion towards the end, which was very useful. Joe Duffy, Dino McGartland from Oma, who was always at the end of the email when I needed help. Con Collins for his faith that I could produce a Rory book. Somebody met me and said, who's the publisher? I said, it's Collins and Cork. I always said, well, whatever about you, it'll look well this way. I'm going to read it's a bit from the markers here towards the end of the book. It's where, in Dave's words, I was trying to kind of. The hardest thing sometimes is to describe somebody's music, why they were great. We know he was great. Why was he great? And this is the legacy chapter. For Gallagher, music always came first, on stage and off stage. The star could become the fan again very easily. After his gig in Vancouver in 1974, he slipped into the crowd, as he often did, this time to see Paul Butterfield's show. He was being observed. A journalist said, "A swell of people gathered round the front of the stage for Butterfield, just as they had for Gallagher during his performance. They seemed unaware that the man they had hailed back for a frenzy-inspiring encore an hour ago was now among them and safe within their anonymity." Dave McHugh sees genius and humility. The kind of person he was meant that he would have considered himself more a hard-working curate than the high priest he was. Nice one, Dave. Like so many great artists, Gallagher had the power to inspire others to bring moments that changed lives. Dino McGartlin from Oma, County Tyrone, remembers clearly the day he brought live in Europe in his local record show more than 40 years ago. He became irrevocably enthralled as the vinyl played. And he said, I like to be thrown across the room, and I was that day. His passion for Gallagher has not dimmed in all the years. He even sees Rory Gallagher as a Dylan-esque figure for blues music. Music and conviction was Gallagher's essence. You can hear it in his shouts of joy on the live recordings as he spurred himself on. With the guitar in his hands, he became a kind of sorcerer. But how could the kernel of his art, his magic, really be described? One journalist, Philip Nolan, had this simple observation as he ate with Rory one evening. I'm fascinated by his command of chopsticks, until it suddenly dawns on me. Those fingers, they're the self-same ones that have given the world 1 million of the best guitar solos it's ever been treated to. The nimblest, meanest, most exciting electric fingers Ireland has ever produced. Drinking pints with a sounds writer in Cork pub in 1974, Rory combined erudition and mystery in describing where his music came from. He said, the goals of my sort of music, they can't be reached by technique, nor by hardship either. Then he returned to the blues, referring to the music of Waters and Hooker. That spiritual thing, he said, they get across to me. It's as fresh as a newborn baby, but it's as old as a man of 65, and it's pure 20th century. It's twice as flash, tough as any of your metal rock or street punks. His conclusion that day could even be his epitaph. He said, the music's beyond all that altogether, and there again, it's something you can't explain. Thank you.
Thanks, Julian. Whatever about the book looking well, I think Dave Fanning's sort of reflective comments on the book mean that Julian has hit the nail on the head. So I hope everybody else, after they read it, will agree with those comments. And if not, you know what to do. He's at RTE. Having said that, we bring the proceedings, the official formal proceedings, to an end. So I hope you enjoyed the rest of the evening, and thank you all for coming.